Hi everybody, this is Brian from theunlocker.com, and today we're going to be giving you a crash course on titanium backup. Titanium Backup's a program that's designed to backup and restore your Android applications, but it can be a little bit tricky to use when you're first getting started with it. So we're going to give you some pointers here that's going to help you out. First thing we need to establish is that this can only be used on rooted devices. So if you've recently purchased a device, you've got it set up the way you want it, and now you want to go ahead and root it, Titanium Backup is not going to be used to back up your stock configuration so you can restore it after you're rooted. So unfortunately, that's the one thing that Titanium Backup doesn't do, is back up your apps before you're into a rooted state. But once you're rooted, if you're going between different ROMs, or you need to do a factory reset or something to that effect, Titanium Backup will save you a lot of time and effort, and it will ensure that most, if not all, of your application data, along with your system settings, is going to be restored. Now, before we begin using Titanium Backup, we need to make sure that some of our system settings are set up so that Titanium Backup has what it needs to operate properly. To do this, press Menu and press Settings from your home screen, and scroll down to your Application section. And we want to make sure that Unknown Sources is checkmarked. Now we want to go into Development. And we want to make sure that Debugging or Debug over USB are both selected. Sometimes, depending on your phone or your ROM, you're just going to have USB debugging up there. Go ahead and make sure that's checked. Once that's done, you can go ahead and go back, open up Titanium Backup, and if everything is set up properly, this is the screen you're going to get. If you get some sort of box here in the middle that tells you your system is not configured properly for Titanium Backup to run, it'll go ahead and give you that message, and then you want to go and turn on USB debugging or make sure that Unknown Sources is checkmarked. If you've already done that and it's still giving you the error, go ahead and reboot your phone, open up Titanium Backup, and it should be fine. Now, this is the main overview page for Titanium Backup. The first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to go into this program settings, and we're going to make a few changes there as well. These settings will help you out, and as you go through this a few times, you'll realize why we make some of these changes. So from this main overview page, press Menu, and then go to Preferences. Here at the top, you'll see where it says Auto Sync TB Settings, and I've already got that check marked. What that does is it saves a configuration file to your SD card, so that after you've installed a new ROM, even if you had to do a factory reset, there's a configuration file that Titanium Backup looks for on your SD card, and then it'll automatically revert itself back to whatever settings you've changed previously. So that's nice. So once you do this the first time, you shouldn't have to do it anymore, but it's still a good idea to go back and double check. The next thing that we're going to go do is we're going to come down here and we're going to change Max Backup History. And we're going to change this to something other than 1, which is the default when you first download the application. I don't recommend 1 because I have had corrupt backups before. It doesn't happen very often, but Murphy's Law says that it's probably going to happen, and it's probably going to happen to an app that you really didn't want to have a bad backup. So just go ahead and change this. You can make it from anything from 1 all the way up to 50. I really don't see a need to have 50 backups, but if you've got a lot of space on your SD card that's not occupied by music or movies or whatever, then that's an option for you. Now that we've made those changes to our system settings, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and back up all of our applications. We're not going to be very selective during this process. We're going to go ahead and just back up absolutely everything that we can possibly back up. We'll be more selective later when we go to restore it, but you don't want to forget to back up something, do a factory reset, and then realize at that point in time that you forgot to back it up. So if you look at this main overview page, you've got the overview tab, which we're on, then you've got backup, restore, and then schedules, all those little tabs up at the top. And you'd think that to back up your applications, you'd want to go to the center section, and if you have the basic version of Titanium Backup, this is basically what you're left with. and it works certainly, but this is all done on an app-by-app basis. So if you wanted to restore Adobe Air here, you could click on it, and then it gives you the option to restore just that one application. Well, if you're like me and you've got a couple hundred applications on here, that might take you a little bit of time. You can also use this screen to do things like move this to the SD card. So if you long press on an application, you'll get a whole list of individual options that you can do just for that one application. So here, let me see, we can go to move to SD card right here. We can try to convert it to a system app, which basically just moves which partition it's on. So there is definitely some functionality in there, and I do go into this backup and restore section, but it's typically after a restore. If I forgot to restore something, this is where I'd go at that point in time. But for right now, what we're going to do is we're going to do some batch operations. So from this overview page, and we're always going to start from the overview page, we're going to hit menu, and then you've got a batch little icon there. So now once this loads, it's going to give us all of our available options for everything that we can do using batch commands. So we can verify all of our backups, we can actually do a backup, we can do a batch restore, we can move a whole bunch of apps at one point in time to the SD card, freeze or defrost, which I don't get into very much. You can manipulate the data, uninstall, delete backups, all that stuff. So for right now, we're going to stick to the backup section, and we're going to go down here to where it says backup all user apps and system data. And you can see that all these numbers here on the side are how many actual items you would be backing up or restoring or moving or whatever. So you can see that the 168, that's how many applications I currently have installed on my phone. That's applications, that's system settings that can be backed up, that's everything. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit run there, and then it's going to bring up this other screen where we've got just all of our applications here that are selected, and that's okay. We're going to go ahead and leave everything selected. We're going to leave it so it kills the active apps, and up at the top here you've got a button that says run the batch operation. Go ahead and select that. Go get yourself a cup of coffee. This is going to take 5 to 10 minutes. Alright, I think that took us about 7 or 8 minutes for that process to finish. It's going to vary depending on how fast your device is, along with how many applications you have loaded, how big those applications are. So anywhere from probably 5 to 10 minutes in that batch operation to back up all of your apps is going to be completed. And once it's done, it's going to return you to this overview screen, and you're going to have this notification up here that tells you Titanium Backup Pro that the batch process finished successfully, and it's going to tell you that whether you're backing up, whether you're restoring applications, anytime you do any kind of function within Titanium Backup, it's pretty good about giving you a notification letting you know what the status of that is. So now that we've done that, we've backed up all of our applications. Now what we can do, if you want to, and I typically don't really do this because I trust Titanium Backup, plus I always keep 3 backups, is you can go into your batch menu here and you can verify all of your backups, and it'll let you know which backups were successful, which were not, if any are problematic or had a bad backup, and then you can go ahead and try to back those applications back up. Normally I don't even mess with that, I just kind of take it at face value, but nothing's really that crucial to me. If something's very important to you, then I would definitely recommend taking the extra couple minutes verifying your backups. But now that we're done with that, we've got all of our applications backed up. Now we're ready to do whatever it is you needed to do. If you wanted to install a new ROM, if you needed to do a factory reset, you can go ahead and do that, and rest assured that your application data and all your settings have been backed up and can be restored at a later time. Now this next thing we're going to do is pretty handy. If you're like me, you flash a lot of ROMs, and when you do, you log back into your phone like it's the first time you've ever set it up, and then the market wants to go ahead and it wants to go ahead and automatically download all of those applications that you once had on your phone. Now that's great that the Google market does that, The problem with it is it's not going to recognize that you've had those apps before on this device, so it's not going to bring back any kind of save game data. So if you 3-starred everything in a game of Angry Birds, those 3 stars are all gone now. The application will re-download, and you'll have the application back on your phone, so it'll kind of look like your phone's syncing itself back up, but it's not an air sync where it's going to sync your save game settings. So if you're familiar with like the Kindle, they've got that whisper sync, which is really nice because you bookmark a page on one device, you pick up another device, and there's your bookmark. The Android market doesn't work that way. So if it automatically downloads your applications again, it's just going to download kind of blank, first time use applications where none of your save game setting or your application data specific to things you've done is going to be there. So what we need to do now is once you've logged on, and a lot of people use this functionality, and you'll notice that in a lot of ROMs, Titanium Backup's automatically baked into the ROM. That way, when you first boot up the device, you don't have to go and download Titanium Backup. It's already there. And what you can do is, once you launch Titanium Backup, before you download any of the applications from the App Store, you can kind of circumvent that whole process, and we can restore all of your missing apps with the respective data for all of those applications without ever having to mess with the market. And then we can actually go in and we can set it up so that it links those applications back to the market that they came from. So what we can do is, from this overview screen in Titanium Backup, press Menu, then do Batch, and now we're gonna be dealing in the Restore section. You can see there's only 5 options here, but the very first one is Restore Missing Apps with Data. Go ahead and select the Run button there. You'll be taken to another screen where you'll have some more settings that you can go through. You can select the applications that you want, and then you can deselect applications that you don't want. So if there are things that used to be on your phone and you realize it's an application that you don't really use, now's the time to weed some of that stuff out. So what I typically do is I'll deselect all, and then I'll leave it app and data just for this, and then I'll go through and I'll individually tick each one that I want restored, and maybe I'll skip that one and skip that one, and I'll go through just like that and be a little bit selective, because this is kind of a time for some spring cleaning, and my applications get out of hand. So this is a nice excuse to go through those and weed out those applications that you wanted to download and try, and realize that you're not going to use it very often or whatever. So once you get this done, go ahead and press run the batch operation up at the top. It'll go ahead and run just like it did when it backed everything up, and when it's done, it'll give you a little notification letting you know that it's successfully completed. Alright, just to recap at this point in time what we've accomplished: we've backed up all of our apps, we've done whatever maintenance tasks we needed to do, whether it was a factory reset or we installed a new ROM and we had to wipe the phone clean to do that. We've then reinstalled all of our missing apps, basically either in conjunction with or completely circumventing the Android market, and it's downloading the apps on its own and restoring just the apps and not the data. We've done that ourselves, so now we've got all of our apps from the Android market or any other market downloaded back to the phone, and we're pretty much ready to go. And at this point in time, I haven't said a whole lot about be careful doing this, watch out for this. This is the section where that's going to change a little bit. We are going to make some changes here that could cause system instability issues, could cause force closes, could cause you to go into boot loops. So proceed with caution during this next section. This is a little bit more advanced in terms of what we're going to do, but the rewards are pretty great in that you won't have to set up things like your email again, which I actually absolutely hate setting all those mail server addresses and all that things in for my various email accounts. So just proceed with caution at this point, and that's enough. I'm not going to say too much more about that. So to do this, we're going to press Menu. We're going to go back into our batch menu, which we're now familiar with. scroll down to the restore section. If you look at the very bottom, you've got restore all apps with data. We're going to do this one, okay, but we're going to be very selective. And the first thing we're going to do to ensure that we're selective is we're going to deselect all. So now all of these applications, nothing's set to back up. The second thing that we're going to do is we're going to change this to data only instead of app plus data. And that's because the applications that we're missing, we've already restored. So now we've got restored user apps, but we've got not restored, if that's the way to put it, system apps. So the system apps are on there, new system apps, maybe if you upgraded your ROM, but those applications are like they've never been used before. So now what we're going to do is we're going to just install the data and just reinstall that so that those applications can run with things like our previous addresses that we've navigated to in our Maps application. If you're like me, you use this as the primary GPS device, and in doing so, I flash ROM several times, and then I get in my car and realize that, oh, I don't have any previous addresses that are in there. And that can create a little bit of a problem. So we're going to try to circumvent as much of that as possible. This is the place where colors do matter. You can see here we've got the red, the green, and the white. We're going to go ahead and start and explain what the white ones are. The white are generally user applications, things that were downloaded from the Android market or the Amazon market or something like that. And these are usually safe to install. I have had some where I've had a corrupt backup and it has caused a problem, but that's very rare. So typically if it's a white, if you see white text here listed for an application, that should be safe to install. Then we move up one, we see the green. This is a Titanium specific thing where it captures all of your account settings, and that's green, showing that we can go ahead and restore that, and they're basically telling us it's safe to do that. And then up above you can see where we have red for account and sync settings, and basically what this is saying is that it's not recommended that you restore that setting because it could cause problems. It's not necessarily going to cause problems, but it could, and that's important to know. So what we're going to do is any of our missing apps that we restored, like Adobe Air would have been a missing app, we would have already restored that, so we're going to leave that alone. And we're going to scroll down, or if you want to check it, it's not going to be a problem. So if you don't know if you restored it in the past, go ahead and restore it again. It's not going to hurt anything, but it's just going to take a little bit more time to complete. And then we're going to scroll down and just select any of these ones that we want to. We're going to stay clear of most of the red ones unless we absolutely need it. Like I can tell you from experience that, see, here's a green one that's alarms. So if you don't want to have to set up your alarms again, you should be able to just click this one here, and it should restore your alarm settings so that you've got those and don't have to set those up again. Here's your contacts, calls. This is going to be your call log essentially. And some of these, see how it says version 2.3.7? Some of these actually aren't going to be able to be restored if you're moving from different app versions. Now we're going to scroll down here to email 2.3.4, which is the email client that's on this. That's the version of the application. It's listed in red. I can tell you from many times doing it myself that I will check that and I will restore my email settings, and most of the time it works brilliantly. I don't have to set up my accounts again. Everything's ready to go. But it could cause problems, so that's why it's in red. And then go through and select all the files that you want to restore, and then you're going to hit run the batch operation button again, and it's just going to install the data from those applications or from those settings, and it's going to install that on your new ROM, and you should be good to go. After you do this, go ahead and do a reboot because you're really not going to know if there's a problem until you do. A lot of times I've done this in the past and there was a problem, but I didn't notice it until maybe a day later when I rebooted my phone, and then I get caught in a boot loop. So right now, once you run this, it'll come back and tell you everything's successfully completed. go ahead and reboot your phone. If you boot back up and you're not seeing force closes or boot loops or anything out of the ordinary like that, then you should be good to go.